Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. Monday Night Raw ends the decade with the piss-poor, convoluted, confusing, most ridiculous piece of garbage segment you could ever feast your eyes on. And it is absolutely, now that I'm thinking about it, a perfect encapsulation of what it has felt like to watch this show for an entire decade. The decade began and, Monday Night Raw was pretty great. We had Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels making up back in 2010. DX was still doing their thing, and everything was much better off than it is now. And here we are at the end of the decade, and we are watching a ridiculous wedding that you want me to suspend my disbelief in this whole thing, and you want me to buy into this bullshit wedding. And I can't. I can't do it. I can't even pay attention. I'm phasing out. I don't care about anything that's going on. And then you want to give the main event segment of the final episode of the decade for Monday Night Raw to be centered around and focused on Lana and her past relationships and her first husband and apparently her lesbian relationship. And in one fell swoop, the WWE tonight bored us to death in the last 20 minutes of this show and killed anything that was going on with Liv Morgan. And that was probably the longest open we've ever done, but we are going to talk about it all right here and right now as we bring the hammer down on Monday Night Raw for the final time in 2019 and for the final time this decade. Let's say it as many times as the WWE said it tonight as well. And my name is Nick Nightmare, and you're watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Monday Night Raw review. Let's get this over with.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
Before we even get started, a quick apology for the way that I sound. I am actually sick, and I am not just sick because Monday Night Raw put me in a state of just disgusting illness, but it's because I've seemingly contracted a cold somewhere, so I may sound a little bit weird, and forgive me if I have to sneeze or anything throughout the entirety of this review, because this show made me feel even worse than I did when I sat down to watch it. We all knew this friggin' wedding was coming. We all knew it was coming at us. We all knew it was going to be garbage. But, I always try to give the WWE credit, and I said, you know what? It's been so bad that they really can't make it any worse. We all pretty much knew what to expect. We knew that Rusev was going to, by some reason, for some reason, was going to interject and stop this wedding from happening. What we couldn't have foreseen was what actually went down. Not only is Lana just terrible, which we know, she's awful. She can't deliver her lines. She's forgetting her words. She's not what Stephanie McMahon was. You know how we hate Stephanie McMahon? It's an even deeper hate than we have for Stephanie McMahon. I don't understand why this angle is being given so much importance. And if you want to tell me, well, it's because it was going to relaunch Liv Morgan, you have got another thing coming, because that was the biggest waste of any debut I have ever seen, ever. All of these weeks we are leading up to the re-debut of Liv Morgan. We're seeing little promotional packages where she's talking about she needs to destroy herself to become who she needs to be. And tonight she gives this whole speech about how she's going to take it back and she's going to strike when the time is right. And are we ready for her to strike? What was the strike? Where did she strike? She came out crying like a little girl. Oh, I'm watching the person I love. You all knew exactly who she was talking about immediately. There was no shock coming at me that way at all, because there would be no other reason for Liv Morgan to be involved. Do you think anybody's going to give a shit about Liv Morgan being with a Bobby Lashley? Absolutely not. Do you think anybody's going to give a shit about this whole Liv Morgan being with Lana? I certainly don't. it is just like they're doing things for the sake of doing things. They're throwing stuff against the wall and hoping that it sticks. Well, we'll try this. Maybe this'll do something. The crowd in Connecticut didn't give two shits, and I don't blame them. There is nothing exciting about this. There is nothing that's going to generate interest about this. Everybody's just going to be asking why. Why? Liv Morgan is not gay. We know this. This is a fact. Oh, well, it's TV. They're playing a character. Well, does the WWE not know that they actually have a gay female in their employ? Maybe this angle would have made some sense if they would have had Sonya Deville as the antithesis or as the antagonist in this situation. But perhaps Sonya Deville has more respect for her relationship with her partner than Lana apparently has for her relationship with Rusev, and she probably told the WWE to go fuck themselves because I am not going to do this kind of crap because it's garbage. And it doesn't even make sense. When did this happen? Why did this happen? Lana, all of a sudden, she's been getting nailed by everybody. Lana's having sex with the whole entire roster and everybody's coming out one after the other. Like, is that the road we're leading down? What was Lana was so overwhelmed with the Rusev sex that she went to go get herself a female? What? But then she decides she's going to go with the milk dud, Bobby Lashley. What? What? When was all this happening? When Liv Morgan was happily part of the Riot Squad? Is this why her tongue is blue? Is there something about Lana that we don't know? Has she got blue waffle? What's going on? What is this trash? What are we watching? How is this wrestling? How is this wrestling related at all? Just because a bunch of people in there who claim to be professional wrestlers are taking part in it and it's happening in a ring doesn't mean it belongs on my wrestling show. This was the worst possible way they could have ended this show. They could have ended the year. They killed all of that momentum for Liv Morgan. Oh, all of that weirdness that we were hearing, all of the cryptic messages, all of the stuff that made you seem like she was going to be something special. She just came out and, oh, she's a lesbian? Or is it not? She's probably not even a lesbian. She was just Lana's lesbian. She was Lana's girlfriend. I don't know, but you know what? I don't want to know. It kills it for me. She had so much potential on this relaunch, and you just immediately threw her right back into the trash. There is no reason for us to give a shit about Liv Morgan, especially when you want to put her in the storyline with Lana. It's not going to get me excited. It's not going to make me happy. I love me some lesbians, but I don't care about this. And how did we get here? For months, Lana and Lashley has been the thing, and now it's Lana and Liv? This makes no sense. And that's the biggest problem with the show. It never makes sense. How can you just throw this out there like that and expect everybody to just accept it? Oh, well, this is what we're going to do now. How is this going to translate into 2020? Why is this even the direction that they're going? How is this going to help elevate Liv Morgan's wrestling career? She's not even really gay. I'm wondering, like, what the tone of the LBGT community is. Like, are you more offended at the fact that Liv Morgan is pretending to be that way? Or are you happy that they're going to go with some sort of an angle featuring this particular lifestyle? But how much can they show? Like, what are they going to even do? Lana didn't even care. Lana ended up attacking Liv Morgan. So, like, what the hell is even happening? Is Lana going to be transitioned into the ring? I don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. The best part of this whole wedding was watching Lana planting a kiss on Bobby Lashley in the middle of their freaking vows and then walking away with melted milk dud all over her face. She had makeup all over her forehead, down her nose, standing there looking like a clown that didn't finish painting up her face. Or looking like she got a really bad sunburn in just that one particular area. It was ridiculous. Even Bobby Lashley's trying to call attention to it, and if you go back, please don't go back and watch it. I'm just saying, if you ever do decide to go back and rewatch this part, you'll see they're trying to rub the makeup off her face. She looked even more like an idiot than she did when this whole thing began. having that stupid preacher read all of this overly written dialogue, apparently written by Lana, but then there was a part about babies that wasn't supposed to be in there. But if she wrote the script, then why was that part even in there to begin with? Loopholes all over this thing. We didn't even get to the fact that Lana's first husband shows up. You're giving main event spotlight to this nobody. You know how many people work their whole entire life to perfect the craft of professional wrestling with the hopes of one day main eventing Monday Night Raw or a SmackDown, and most importantly, a WrestleMania. And now here we are, the last show of the year, the last show of the decade, and the main event is not only going to this ridiculous wedding, but it is going to feature some unknown guy that nobody knows, who's going to pretend to be Lana's husband, Lana's first husband, before Rusev, and he just gets chokeslammed for coming around. Then you got Bobby Lashley's first wife, which wasn't in actuality Bobby Lashley's first real life wife, coming out and getting smacked in the face by Lana after she said absolutely nothing but the word no 100 times, and I think they wanted the crowd to kind of jump in on it, but the crowd didn't care about anything that was happening. No more than you or I cared, if you tortured yourself enough to watch this. And then we get Liv Morgan coming out, revealing that she was in love with Lana, and her and Lana have this relationship. Lana ends up fighting with her. Rusev finally comes out of the ridiculously oversized cake that was in the middle of the ring, which was more than obvious. Who gets a freaking cake that big unless you're going to fit a human body inside of it? So you're not even trying to hide it. This show, after the opening couple of segments, this show just went off the rails. And it culminated with this ridiculous wedding, which deserves the poop hammer more than it has ever deserved the poop hammer before. You guys, this is just an embarrassment to professional wrestling. There is no reason at all for any of this to be going down. It's not pushing Bobby Lashley's career forward. We don't want Lana to be pushed forward because she has no purpose in professional wrestling other than to make our ears bleed and make us want to change the channel. What is it doing for Rusev? The crowd was chanting for Rusev Day throughout the wedding. But then when Rusev jumps out of the cake, they were as quiet as crickets. And maybe you heard 3 guys in the front row chanting, Rusev Day, Rusev Day. So what are you doing? You're not generating heat. You're not generating interest. All you're doing is generating the smell of trash. Lana looked tonight like she had shit all over her face, and that's all that I could smell while I was watching this whole entire segment from start to finish. And I feel like we've given it way more time than it's even deserved. But when something pisses me off, that's the thing that the hammer comes down the hardest on. And it's just, there's no denying. This is the worst, the worst stuff possible that they could come up with in their creative. You should be ashamed of calling yourself a creative team. There's nothing creative about any of this. You wanted shock value? Oh, it's a girl-on-girl thing. This isn't 1997. All right? This is a whole new generation. This is a whole new way of looking at things. It's not looked at as a big deal anymore. Now you're gonna have a bunch of people on one side of the thing all wanting to know why, and a bunch of people on the side of us that just want this shit to go away. You failed Liv Morgan already. I don't want to see her again. Because there is nothing that's going to interest me as long as she is intertwined with Lana. So until this whole thing comes to an end, Liv Morgan has been back on the shit list with everybody else from the Riot Squad until Ruby Riot comes back. What? You know, I'm not even going to go down. I was going to say, like, what did the Riot Squad do while she was out bumping uglies with Lana? Like, no, they didn't know any of this. Nobody knew any of this. Like, how? You know what? Screw it. Screw it all. It is absolutely horrible. Horrible television. The worst possible way they could have went off the air tonight. let's start to talk about something a little bit more positive. And that was the beginning of tonight's Monday Night Raw, which was actually very good. They started off with Kevin Owens, which is always a great way to kick off the show since he's one of the only interesting things on the whole entire roster and the only reason that I watch Monday Night Raw at this point. And I was intrigued with the possibility of what was going to happen if we were going to see the return of Samoa Joe tonight. And the WWE, while they screwed up so epically in the main event segment with the marriage, they actually went about this pretty well. Kevin Owens is calling out Seth Rollins and the Authors of Pain. They come out. Next thing you know, there's a brawl in the ring. They're beating down Kevin Owens once again because Kevin Owens doesn't want to talk to Seth Rollins and he doesn't want to hear him talking about how I'm going to impose my will. He just wants to beat his ass. And that's awesome. Kevin Owens definitely bringing the most excitement to the evening, and it was right at the start of the show. So once again, this week I was like, oh, you know what? This show's starting off pretty good. You know, maybe we are going to make the turn, but I didn't know we were going to make the turn into hell, which is eventually where we would end up by the end of the show. Samoa Joe would come out to make the save. We now have the birth of this team between Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. And the confrontation maybe was a little bit long, maybe seemed a little bit chaotic, and maybe they could have wrapped it up a little bit quicker. But the best part about this whole thing was the promo that was cut by Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe in the back. They were going to be escorted out of the arena. Kevin Owens telling the world that he's never met anybody more bad than Samoa Joe. And he doesn't mean bad as in how bad the Bobby Lashley marriage was. He means bad as in this is one bad mother. And he would be proud to be standing alongside a guy like Samoa Joe. He wouldn't want to have him, any other person aside him for this battle with the Authors of Pain and Seth Rollins going forward. Samoa Joe then tells the security team who is waiting to escort them out, if you don't, anybody touches me, you won't be feeling with your fingers. It's just an intensity in Joe's eye. He looked fantastic. He had a nice haircut. He came ready to fight. But they told him to leave the building. Also, Seth Rollins and the Authors of Pain were asked to leave the building. And as soon as they did, the quality of this show decreased by at least 50%. After this initial confrontation that kicked everything off at the beginning, which was absolutely great. If you didn't see Monday Night Raw, go back and watch the first 20 minutes, watch the opening segment, and watch the Aleister Black-Buddy Murphy match, and then call it a night, because everything else was a bunch of trash. We had that Aleister Black-Buddy Murphy match, and yeah, maybe it wasn't as good as their match at TLC. This was a 15-minute battle between two men. They did extend it from TLC. We had the little one-upsmanship between the two of them last week when they were going up against jobbers. And now here we are closing out the year with them going at it once again in a rematch from that great TLC match. And Buddy Murphy loses to Aleister Black. And I'm thinking they're probably done, right? Like, what would be the point in going forward with them anymore? Maybe they ended 2019 and put an end to this feud since they've done so much in so little time already, and maybe we are going to see Aleister Black elevated into the upper mid-card. Maybe we will see Buddy Murphy as well elevated at the same time. Both of these guys came out looking like gangbusters by the time this feud culminated this evening. If it continues to go forward, it's going to start to become repetitive and stale, because this match at times featured a lot of the same spots as the match at TLC, but this was an excellent match. The crowd was on their feet by the end of it, and it was very, very good. A great showcase for both of these men, which is not something that we get to say very often when we're talking about WWE product, so it is very much appreciated. We've seen the announcers talk about Randy Orton's injury from a house show this weekend in Hershey, Pennsylvania. If you follow me on Twitter, which if you're not, I don't know why you don't, the tag is right there, so go ahead and follow me on the tweet machine. I posted somebody's video of Randy Orton going down with an injury at this Hershey, Pennsylvania house show, and I did not see the news this morning or the leaks and the spoilers that claimed that Randy Orton's little injury at this house show was a work. So coming into Monday Night Raw tonight and going into that Randy Orton segment, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, I was feeling a certain type of way. But we'll talk about that in 1 second. But then when they mentioned it on the show, I'm figuring, oh, well, okay, they're going to discuss it, so it must have really happened. I didn't think that they were putting it in people's minds so that they could screw us with it a little bit later. Eric Rowan comes out with his stupid box, and nobody gave a shit. First of all, they had him talk to Lana. He was all pissed off that he wasn't invited to the wedding, and then he screamed like a lunatic and then went out for his matchup. And he was going out against an enhancement talent once again. I don't care. I don't know why he's continuing to get these squash matches. I wish they would move past it already. If they want there to be something special about the box, then they gotta start doing something with the box. Something other than having complete nobodies running around the ring trying to get it from Eric Rowan. Until any of this happens, I'm not going to care, and I guarantee you that when it does happen, the payoff is not going to be worth all of the anticipation of finding out what's in the box, what's in Rowan's box. I still think it's probably Luke Harper's old outfit. Maybe when he finds his new partner, he's going to take out Luke Harper's old, dirty, disgusting, sweat-covered wife-beater t-shirt and his ripped-up, nasty jeans and hand it to his new partner. Hey, you're my new Luke. What else could be in the box? Who cares? A ferret? A mongoose? A spider? Well, maybe a spider would be interesting. At least it would be kind of creepy and gross to watch him put the spider on people's faces. But, we gotta get there. We gotta get there. So let's get there. Maybe it's just another beard. Maybe it's his goat face mask. Maybe we'll never know. Just like we don't still know who GTV was. Or who was really driving the car that ran over Triple H. Whether it was Rikishi and he did it for The Rock. Or whether it was Triple H. All these little things. Who tried to kill Vince McMahon. Who cares? Who cares about Eric Rowan and his jobbers? Charlotte Flair comes out. And now we're getting into some more controversial territory. I don't understand why Charlotte Flair's having a match tonight. Her coming out and announcing that she's going to be in the Royal Rumble. I hate this time of the year when they start doing this and people just start coming out. I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble. Who said so? Who said so? I don't agree with people just coming out and proclaiming it. Yes, I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble. Did you get clearance? Did some authority figure put you in the Royal Rumble? Is there some sort of a tumbler full of numbers that you were able to draw an entry from? But Charlotte Flair wants to come out and tell us she's doing this because, well, I figured you guys all already knew, she says. You all already knew, so I'll just tell you I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble in 2020. And then she wants to talk about some of her accomplishments. She said, I was the first woman to main event WrestleMania. And back up there, Birdface. Last time I checked, it takes two to tango in a main event, so there can't be a first between the two of you. You could have said I was one of the first, but saying that you were the first woman to main event WrestleMania is incorrect. And if it was written for you that way, then that writer needs to go back to grammar school because that's not the way you were supposed to say that. She then wanted to go on to say she was the first woman on any brand to announce that she's going to enter the Rumble. What the hell does that mean? What does that even mean? That's not an accomplishment. That's not something you could add to your list of 10 championships. What does that even mean? Oh, I'm the first to ever say I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble. Is there an award for that? Is that going to go on your resume? Is that helping you get into the Hall of Fame? Does it really matter? WWE with their first. Oh, we got to say first. Make everybody feel like things are new because it has to be new if this is the first time. Get out of here with that. It was ridiculous. Then she issues an open challenge because WWE, when they don't know what to do with somebody, they have an open challenge and then just throw out a random opponent. This week's random opponent will be Natalya because, yeah, sure. Natalya, the same woman that was just tagging with Charlotte Flair a few weeks back, trying to get a shot at the championships in the women's tag team division. But now they're just going to fight. They were buddies and they're, fine, but, Charlotte's a quasi babyface in a way. So, but they're fighting because Natty wants to fight, I guess. Queen of Hearts versus the Queen of Queens. No. What they needed to do here was have Charlotte announce that she's going to be in the Royal Rumble. Then Asuka should have came out with Kairi Sane, without Kairi Sane, doesn't matter. Just go face to face with her in the ring, because Asuka was the first ever Women's Royal Rumble winner. Right? She's one of the few women on the roster that kind of has Charlotte Flair's number. Just have a little bit of a stare down, intimidation of sorts, and then Charlotte Flair goes about her business. Asuka booked in a match tonight versus Natalya, beats the snot out of her, and then she could answer Becky Lynch's challenge, which should have been aired before this matchup, obviously, in my scenario. So Becky Lynch lays down the challenge to Asuka. She goes out and beats up Natty and's like, yeah, I accept. All while passing Charlotte by and letting her have her moment because she's the queen. But this was an awful promo from Charlotte. And the match between her and Natalya was nothing special. It was a solid 15 minutes of women's action. Two second-generation women's wrestlers doing their thing out there. And it was fine. It was fine. It was just nothing to make sure you have to go out of your way to see. I don't understand why we're seeing it. But I don't think the WWE even understands why they booked it. And it's simply because of the lack of focus on the women since the departure of Ronda Rousey. That they just don't give a shit. So they're just throwing everything at you. Maybe because this was the match we have seen the most in the last year. I don't know. There's got to be a reason for it, right? Can't just possibly be, well, what do we do with Charlotte Flair? I don't know. Well, then why is she on the show? Well, she's the queen. She's got to be on the show. Why don't we give a match to the women's champion? Nah, she don't need a match. Why don't we give a match to the woman who's going to challenge the women's champion at the... Nah, she don't need a match either. She, in fact, don't even need to be on this show at all. We'll just show Asuka in a graphic. But she's the number one contender to the women's championship. That's how important she is to us. Ridiculous. I don't get it. I really don't get it. It was fine, but not very interesting nonetheless. Becky Lynch would follow this because, of course, wherever there's Charlotte, they have to have Becky, right? So we just seen Charlotte beating Natalya for no apparent reason, and now we're going to cut to the Becky Lynch interview because they got to be attached at the hip somehow. Becky Lynch announced that her title match against Asuka was going to be at the Royal Rumble. She said her contract was coming up, which is bullshit. That's just baiting us in because now AEW's around, so the people want people to start believing that, oh, maybe Becky's gonna leave. She ain't going nowhere. First of all, she's dating the world's biggest nerd, Seth Rollins, and she's the women's champion. She's not going anywhere. So she says her contract is coming up, but wanted to have her match with Asuka before she could even look at a new deal. She says she's not going to sign this contract unless she gets what she wants from the WWE, and she will never forget about Asuka beating her. So they're going to have this match. The decision makers were telling her to forget all about it last year. She was on top of the world, but she didn't want to be on top if that's what it meant. I don't know what any of that even meant. Being the golden goose also meant getting the golden handcuffs. She wasn't sure if she could beat Asuka, but she's going to wipe this clean from her record if it kills her. So Asuka's just going to be served up to Becky Lynch at the Royal Rumble. Do you think they're going to let Asuka beat her? I don't think so. I think they're going to let Becky go from Mania to Mania, and somebody's going to take it from her there. Maybe a returning Ronda Rousey in a rematch. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe Ronda's pregnant. Hopefully, I know she wants to be having babies. And maybe she's getting that out of the way so she can finally come back and save her from the mediocrity of this absolutely boring women's division. Because she wasn't great in the ring just yet. She was still pretty green and, you know, she still had a lot of work to do. But she definitely brought a whole lot more interest than what we are getting right now. Liv Morgan's promo. She says, and I quote, "To be different, you can't just look different. You have to feel different. Someone once made me feel different and then took it away. The old me would have done something impulsive. The new me is way more methodical. I strike when I'm ready, and I think I'm ready. Are you?" So in that little paragraph that I just read to you, there's one line that you could apply to the situation that ends up happening at the end of the show. But all of the promos leading up to this do not suggest at all that Liv Morgan is hiding a same-sex relationship with somebody on the roster. Everything she has said is implying that she's not happy with her status as a wrestler. She's not happy with where people have placed her, and she's going to take her part back, and she's going to take her place in the women's division. But tonight, with someone once made me feel different, then took it away. Now we are led to believe that that someone is freaking Lana. And my interest immediately plummets to 0. If you could get below 0, let's go below 0. Negative 10,000. That's still not low enough. The OC and AJ Styles come out and start cutting promos talking about how they're the best tag team in the whole entire world, which is a bunch of bullshit. And they want to show the stupid trophy and talk about everything that they've done to the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders, the tag team champions who were not featured on the final show of the year. And they were supposedly unbeatable, but the OC has now beaten them twice. They get interrupted by the Street Profits in the middle of this promo. And let me tell you something. Tonight was not the Street Profits' night. They looked great. I liked their new little outfits that they were rocking tonight. But on the microphone, I don't know who's writing for them. Whoever it is that's writing for them on the main roster is definitely not the same person that was writing for them in NXT. If there was even anybody writing for them at all. They seem like the type of personalities that you might just want to let go. Just let them speak. They're entertaining. They could riff off each other without you telling them what they need to say. And then we won't have the opening of this matchup becoming a long, boring, uneventful promo segment that leads to the matchup. And then we won't have incidents that we've seen later in the evening with Dawkins forgetting his lines just straight out because the WWE wrote this whole big stupid speech about how it's a multiverse, and then he had to explain why they wanted to be the best tag team in the multiverse and how a multiverse is a universe of parallel different versions of Earth. Like I can't even say it and I'm trying to remember. This guy was given this shit to say and now he was made to look like a fool. He forgot his lines and just stopped, just dead stopped. Until Montez Ford took it over and started talking about the friggin' wedding. This kind of stuff is unnecessary. If you're going to use them right. Just give them a microphone and say go. If you don't want to do it live in case they get a little bit too off color, then film the damn segment in the back while something else is going on. And then air it in the 9:30 spot. Like a friggin' television show that operates live would do. You think Saturday Night Live doesn't have pre-recorded segments? So that the fans can watch something while they're resetting the stage? Live TV has moments that you could insert here and there. You could even tell us taped earlier. Let these guys go. Get them off the leash. They don't need to be told what to say. When they are given all this, they're given way too much, and it obviously tonight malfunctioned on them. Didn't make them look that great. They did look great in the ring, however. This was a pretty, once again, standard tag team matchup. Nothing that special to really make it stand out. AJ Styles got himself ejected, and the minute that happens, you kind of know the Street Profits are going to get the win. By getting the win over the OC tonight, they are kind of interjected into the chase for the World Tag Team Championships, and now we are going to have a triple threat tag team matchup for the first Raw of 2020, featuring the OC, the Street Profits, taking on the champs, the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders. Great. Simple. Could have been much more effective if they would have reined back on all the talking. 1 or 2 lines leading to the match, that's it. We don't need all of this extra. Didn't even really come off that well. I didn't laugh all that much, if I'm being honest. It was pretty dull until the very end, but that's pretty much the case with the tag team division anyway, and it's usually dull the whole way through. The announcers then wanted to tell us that Asuka has accepted Becky Lynch's challenge. She couldn't have just told us that herself. We had to get it from Jerry the King Lawler, a guy who proves every week just how out of touch he is and how terrible he is at telling jokes. We had a 1-on-2 handicap match. Drew McIntyre defeats Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. So he's defeated Kurt Hawkins, he's defeated Zack Ryder, and now he's defeated both of them simultaneously, and I think he beat them both in less time it took him to beat them both individually, which means that Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins are absolutely dead. They might as well just relocate to their figure podcast or whatever it is that they do in their off time, because goddamn, man, there is no way that you could come back from something like this. Why would you even put these guys on TV anymore? The two of them combined could not topple a Drew McIntyre. Could not even get off a decent amount of offense against a Drew McIntyre. And the dynamic to this seemed somewhat off to me. Drew McIntyre came out almost playing like he was a babyface. He was kind of arrogant in his delivery, but he was kind of playing to the crowd a little bit. Who thinks that these guys should be worried about fighting the sexy Scotsman? I do. I certainly didn't think that they were going to get annihilated in less than a minute. But say goodbye to Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. Those careers are done. Dunzo. Why would they even try? They also announced next week the return of Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar decides to come to work the first week of the year, and then we probably won't see him again until WrestleMania. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what Brock Lesnar has to say next week, or we ain't going to see what Brock has to say. We're going to hear what Paul Heyman has to say, and that's going to be the end of it. And if it's anything close to what I've been hearing, the rumors for the Royal Rumble, then, oh my God, 2020 is not going to start off any better than the way 2019 ended. The Randy Orton promo. Randy Orton comes out on crutches. As we already mentioned, he was injured. He hurt his leg at this house show, which I believed to be fact. And personally, I'll let you in the window a little bit. Some of my fans, personally, I am dealing with a similar situation. I am training at House of Glory. I have been training since 2018, and a couple of months back, I tweaked something, and since then, I have just not been right, and I deal with a lot of pain, and I can't get back to training. I'm not allowed to go back to the gym. I'm not allowed to go back and do this in-ring stuff, and it's had me all messed up and whatever. So when Randy Orton is coming out and talking about this injury and talking about how he might be having to step away and it might be a lot longer than he really wants it to be for, and he might never, ever come back to the ring, like it started to tug on my heartstrings. Because as I mentioned before as well, I was not aware of the fact that they already leaked that this was in fact a work that was going to play out on Monday Night Raw. So I was into it. And I was sad, and I felt bad for Randy Orton in this moment. And then when AJ Styles came out, my suspicions began to arise. Randy Orton decided to mention Edge during his little speech, so I said to myself for a minute, interesting, if Randy Orton is really hurt, and AJ Styles is out here and he gets a little bit too aggressive, perhaps we see Edge come to his rescue and take Randy Orton's place on the roster, because we need a Randy Orton. Without Randy Orton, there really is nobody other than Joe and Styles to watch on Monday Night Raw. Really isn't. Well, and Black and Murphy as well. But you get what I'm trying to say. The main event picture will be severely lacking without a Randy Orton. Edge, a former running buddy of the guy, would be a perfect fill-in. It would have worked out just fine. But instead, we go through this extremely long promo, which only led to Randy Orton hitting an RKO. And if that's all you really had planned here, and you didn't have a returning superstar or something just a little bit more meaningful than an everyday RKO from out of nowhere, which he does from out of nowhere all the time, I don't get it. I didn't get it when it was over. I wasn't upset that they got me. You know, sometimes they get you. And this time, Randy Orton is so good at playing his part that he got me. And he made me believe that he was hurt and he was leaving. And he pulled the Mark Henry on me and turned around and RKO'd AJ Styles into next week. This could have been done much easier during the tag team matchup with the OC and the Street Profits in order to eliminate AJ Styles from that equation. Instead of having the referee eject him, RKO out of nowhere, Randy Orton jumps the crowd. Everybody thinks he's injured, but, you know, maybe he has a little speech at the beginning. You know, you give him a taped segment, an interview segment. Oh, I'm really hurt. I'm not going to be on Raw tonight. My leg is messed up. Blah, 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 blah. Then AJ Styles gets involved in the matchup. He comes out and saves the day, RKO's him outside the ring, and everybody's happy, everybody's jumping, everybody's screaming, and that's how you get things going. You don't have us sit there and listen to AJ and just go on and on and on like a high school bully, kicking out his crutches, just picking on him and saying all of these stupid things that he would never say to Randy Orton if he was 100%. This was a cheap way to go about it. Randy Orton gets an RKO out of nowhere, and that was the end of the segment. And where is this going? We're going to end up seeing Randy Orton and AJ Styles at WrestleMania, because they mentioned WrestleMania about 3 times in this interaction between each other as well. They then mentioned Andrade beating Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship at the last holiday tour stop here in New York City's Madison Square Garden. And again, if you were following me on Twitter, you would have seen my reaction to this, which was pretty much like, what? Like, what the hell are they doing? But I will give them credit for using it. That it wasn't just a random thing, like they did this with a purpose of sorts. And Andrade Cien Almas is now the United States champion. They said that the reason he won was most likely due to the damage that Rey Mysterio incurred on last week's episode of Monday Night Raw, thanks to the Authors of Pain and Seth Rollins curb stomping him into the stage. Which makes sense. So you have to give them a little bit of a pass for that. It's like, all right, you might not be the biggest Andrade fan, but he just happened to get in the ring with Rey Mysterio on the right night. So they used it. They made it make sense. So I was okay with it. What I'm not okay with is them booking him in a matchup against a jobber. The guy wins the United States Championship at Madison Square Garden from Rey Mysterio, and you follow it up with a booked match against nobody. Only to have this nobody get his ass beat and is about to be taken out in the same manner that Andrade took out Humberto Carrillo, and Ricochet comes out. He's going to defend the honor of Rey Mysterio. He's going to defend the honor of all the jobbers, since the WWE views him as a jobber as well. So he's going to stand up for the little guy. If anybody's going to lose with style, it's going to be me. Because that's my job. I signed the dotted line with WWE, and my job is to lose to everybody while making everybody and myself look okay. This was a good match between these two guys. They have a particular chemistry that I happen to notice with each other, but this is your standard Ricochet matchup. He goes out there, he shows you how amazing he is, and then he ends up looking at the lights. And in this scenario, they did kind of book it in the right way. You had the heel champion being assisted by his heel manager in order to get the win, which may not have been the case had Zelina Vega not pushed Ricochet off the top rope towards the end of this match leading into the finish. So it was a smart way to book him losing, but the amount of times he has been losing is just makes every time you see him, you're just going to assume he's out there to lose. Did you think he was going to win tonight? Did you have any reason to think that when they already announced prior to this matchup that Rey Mysterio's getting his rematch on next week's episode of Monday Night Raw? You think they're going to change the title now? Of course not. It was a non-title matchup regardless, and even in a non-title scenario, Ricochet didn't come out with a win, which is usually the case when you're fighting a champion in a non-title situation. But this was I don't know, man. It was an enjoyable match. The wrestling quality was great, but I thought the finish kind of looked stupid. And like Zelina Vega pushed Ricochet off the top rope, like in clear view of the referee. Like it just, I don't know, stupid. But nowhere near as stupid as Lana and Bobby Lashley's wedding, which we talked about ad nauseum at the beginning of this show, and I don't really want to talk too much about it again. We'll just reiterate the key points in this piece of shit that ended this ridiculous show. So Lana and Lashley come out. Lana gets makeup all over her face. And then Lana's first husband comes out. Says he married her the day she turned 18 and she left him for Rusev. And now she left Rusev for Bobby, and he tells Bobby she's going to do the same to you. Bobby Lashley choke slams him into the flowers. Bye-bye, husband number one. Then comes out Lashley's wife. As she tried to say something other than the word no, Lana smacked her in the face, knocking her off the apron. But then it was Liv Morgan. Liv says the love of her life was standing in the ring. The love of her life. Now, I understand coming off of a relationship probably with Enzo Amore, probably felt like the next person was the love of your life. Probably just because you didn't want to remember the previous love of your life. But she says she wouldn't have been able to make it through this year without them. She doesn't know if she could be herself. She didn't know she could be herself until they fell in love. They fell in love. They were together so long, they've fallen in love. How can you do this to me? Blah, blah, blah. Bobby Lashley's thoughts, I never seen her before. I've never been with her before. And then she turns her attention to Lana. Lana just flips out, starts attacking Liv Morgan. Rusev pops out of the cake. And that's it. Lana gets a face full of cake to match her face full of chocolate milk dud cream. And that was the last Raw of the year. As you could see how we went over it. The start of the show. With Kevin Owens and everything. With Seth Rollins and the AOP and Samoa Joe. Fantastic stuff. Aleister Black, Buddy Murphy. Fantastic stuff. And man, whew, did we go to shit territory really, really quick. Once again, the poop hammer, well deserved by the Lana Lashley wedding. Absolutely horrible, horrible television. The wasting of Liv Morgan is almost unforgivable, and I don't even want to see where this story is going to continue. Talk about a fall in the women's division. This whole thing gets worse and worse by the week. And it's partially due to the fact, like I mentioned earlier, that Ronda Rousey is not around. And if you want to hear more about any of that, you can check out our most recent episode of our end of the year series, Most Important Wrestlers of the Last Decade, in which the last episode features Ronda Rousey herself, 2 other episodes up so far with a couple of more to come as we end 2019 and stroll into 2020. We're going to continue on with this series with a couple of more entries that you're not going to want to miss. Make sure, in order to not miss any of those or miss our SmackDown and AEW and NXT reviews, which we will be getting back to business on in 2020, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. If you had a good time tonight, if you hated the Lashley and Lana wedding, smash that thumbs up. Share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need to get their frustrations out about this piece of crap that we had to watch tonight. Hit that round of applause. Don't be afraid. If you see that button down there, click it. See what it does. Do it if you want. You don't have to. It's not necessary. But let me know how it works. Let me know if it works and how it works, because I'm just as curious as you as to how that's going to play out. There's a button next to the like button. It says applause. If you want to hit it and give me a round of applause, if you could share a few dimes and a nickel or a dollar or whatever it is, feel free to do so and become a part of the show by leaving your little round of applause, which I think plays every time somebody watches it at the moment you did it after the first viewing. I'm not sure. That's why I want you guys to do it, so we know how it works. But you don't have to do that to support the show. You could also go and get yourself a Sledgehammer Wrestling Show official logo t-shirt, Sledgehammer TV t-shirt, available in 5 colors, and the Poop Hammer t-shirt, the deadliest weapon in all of professional wrestling reviews. Get it right now, bonfire.com/sledgehammer-TV. But the most important way for you guys to support the show is leave them comments down in the comments section. Like, share, and subscribe. It does a tremendous amount to get this video out there. I can't tell you guys how important it is for me to have yous in my life this year. Without this channel, I don't even know where I would be. So the value of every one of my subs to me is immeasurable. This year has been really, really shitty. So you have no idea just how much this show and being here and coming and talking to you guys about wrestling, it's balancing out my life in a way that allows me to continue to move forward. And instead of making things continue to hold me back, I try to continue pushing forward, and it's all thanks to you guys. And 2020 has got to be better than this. So I hope you guys all have a safe and happy new year. Drink one for me, and think about me when the clock strikes midnight after you kiss whoever it is you're going to be kissing at that moment. If you're kissing nobody, and then, take an extra drink and then think of me or whatever. But whatever it is you do, have a happy, happy New Year's Eve, and I hope to see you guys on the other side of 2020. That, my friends, is going to do it. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team. Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you. That is going to do it, and we are out of here. We will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. And hopefully next time my nose won't be running and I won't sound all nasal and congested, and I'll be feeling 100% better. So tune in to find out when Nick Nightmare gets well. That's another hook to make you guys come back. See, I'm way more exciting than Monday Night Raw. Have a good one. Happy New Year, guys. I love yous.